A man has been found unalived in his car in America. You found a lot of things like that in America, interestingly. And who is this man found unalive in his car? He's a former Boeing employee who was raising concerns about the firm production standard. He has been found unalived in his car. So this man has worked for Boeing for a long time, and he was a quality insurer, making sure everything works well for the company, making sure all technical issues are taken care of, making sure everything is patched up. Now, why would he be unalive, and why are we talking about this? Because this man had been talking about some issues with Boeing for the past decade almost. He's been putting a lot of pressure on quality of technical issues and quality of production of Boeing that, according to him, has dropped drastically since a few years. So the man's name is John Barnett. He worked for Boeing for more than 30 years before retiring in 2017. And in the day before he was unalive, he had been giving evidence in court against Boeing. So what has Boeing said about this? Obviously, Boeing said they are saddened to hear that Mr. John Barnett has been unalive, and they have confirmed that this was due to a self-inflicted wound. Very interesting. So John Barnett in 2010 was assigned as quality assurer, quality manager in North Charleston plant. The facility built 780 Dreamliners. What do we need to understand? We have a case here of a person who's been working for Boeing for the longest time as a technical personnel. Very, very interesting person that comes and says forward that unlike many other workers, when you work for a company, you work for a business, you try to keep their secret. He felt the need to come forward and explain to the world that Boeing is not producing airplanes that they used to anymore. The quality has dropped drastically. One example he provided, he said he had uncovered a serious problem with oxygen system, which could mean 1 in 4 breathing masks would not work in case of emergency. You hear that, fellas? You see those breathing masks they give you where they say, take your breathing mask in case of a problem, your breathing mask going to drop. He uncovered that 1 out of 4 breathing masks will not work when that situation occurs. And Boeing did nothing, absolutely nothing, according to him, to fix this problem. He claimed that tests on emergency oxygen system due to be fitted on the 787 showed a failure of a rate of 25%. So 1 out of 4 would not function, meaning that 1 out of 4 could fail to deploy in real life emergency. So when that beautiful lady comes forward and say, okay, guys, in case of emergency, take your mask, cover yourself, and cover your people. Well, that thing will not work. Thank God we never really have to experience that. So it's all theater. Mr. Barnett said he had alerted managers to his concern, but no action was taken. And obviously in companies like this, big companies like that, usually they perceive you as a worker as just a number. You're not very much representative of anything, because it's a massive company. Who are you? What other accusation? He accused Boeing of using subpart element to build airplane just to catch up with the time frame. Meaning, in order for Boeing to meet the deadline, they had to use subpart components to build airplanes. So this means, in other words, that airplanes in Boeing mean absolutely nothing. Let me give you an example, fellas. A while back, a few weeks ago, there was an airplane. The door completely came off, and this is a Boeing airplane. The door completely came off as the flight was going. As people were flying, the door comes off. Just imagine the terror, the fear that would consume flyers when the door comes off. Then after this happens, apparently this is a point that Mr. Barnett had evoked earlier.
One, this is not a 737 problem. It's a Boeing problem. And I know the FAA's gone in and they've done due diligence and inspections to assure that the door plugs of the 737 are installed properly and the fasteners are torqued properly. But my concern is, what's the rest of the airplane? What's the rest of the condition of the airplane? And the reason my concern for that is, back in 2012, Boeing started removing inspection operations off their jobs. So it left the mechanics to buy off their own work.
He presented his fault, but they rejected it. Now, a review by the U.S. regulator, the Federal Aviation Administration, confirmed what Mr. Barnett said. They said these doors are faulty. There are bolts that are missing. That's the reason why the doors are coming off. Remember, you fellas, we have one problem. The airplane industry is controlled by a duopoly, meaning that 2 big companies control the airplane business. 2 big companies control the aeroplane flying businesses. We have Boeing for Americas and we have Airbus for Europe. And these 2 companies hold a share market of 99%. Your country doesn't build airplanes. They don't. your continent most likely do not build airplanes. You have two companies that belong to specific human beings that control the airplane business. Let me remind you that in 2018 in Indonesia, there was an airplane crash. This was due to faulty technical issues. Unfortunately, Boeing did not take accountability for this. Guess who they blame? They blame the pilots. They said the pilots were not trained enough. They did not have the know-hows. A year later, shortly after it was Ethiopia, an airplane crashed. Guess who they blame? They blame the Ethiopian pilot. Instead of blaming the airplane that wasn't functioning the way they were trained for it to function, they blame the pilot, saying the pilot did not get adequate training. But later on, after investigation, they found out that there was an issue with the software in the airplane. And instead of apologizing openly, they played political. But they grounded the airplane. It was the Boeing 737 MAX that crashed in Ethiopia. Again, instead of saying it's our fault, my bad, we did wrong, we should have done this and that, they blame the Ethiopians. Of course, it's very easy to blame some African pilots who are not very well trained, in order to save your image, in order to save your company's name. Now, the biggest problem we have here is that most countries ordering from either Boeing or Airbus, and the orders continue. And with that being said, no competition just means they can continue doing what they've always been doing. This man accused Boeing of using subpart, meaning not good quality part, to replace damaged parts. And sometimes, in order to build and deliver a brand new airplane, they had to use old parts from dead airplanes to complete their project in order to finish on time. Now, fellas, we're talking about flying here. This is your life. This is your future. One life. This is the only most important thing you have. And there's no control. Why is there no control? Why is there no repercussion? Because obviously, Boeing and Airbus are in bed with the regulators. Okay, the most powerful people, the decision makers, are in bed with Boeing and Airbus. Therefore, they cannot pay any price. So right now, peace be with this man who has given his life for the truth. There is an investigation in the United States of America to try to find out who really took him out. Because already we can hear it. They say it was a self-inflicted wound. They don't explain what kind of wound is it. Self-inflicted wound. We also know this is not the first time that whistleblowers are blown away. Whistleblowers against big companies. Yeah. I mean, this man was so engaged into bringing out the truth. He was fighting very hard. There's even a video of him saying, if I go, it's not me. I didn't take out no, it wasn't me. He says that. But a day before he presented himself in court with more evidence, is no more. Let me know how you feel about this. It's always a great pleasure. I think, unfortunately, there's nothing we can do for now. All we can do is to gather information, because the more informed you are, the stronger you are. You cannot fight an issue or problem you're not aware of. God bless.